Hi, welcome back. Just got in from Edmonton. We're out there and did a seminar at Gary Channon's, and Gary put on a great, did a nice job of hosting it for us. So hello to any of the new members from out in that area. Also told me a little bit about this Spanish cedar and how nasty it can be as far as or toxic to people who have allergies. So if you're working, be careful. I'm going to start wearing a mask. It doesn't bother me, but it leaves a terrible taste in my mouth. And allergies sometimes, I'm no physician, but allergies sometimes develop from repeated exposure. So better be on the safe side. Okay, Dave's not here today. It's a beautiful sunny day in New Brunswick, and Dave's needed to take the afternoon off. Poor Dave. So he's probably at home relaxing. Okay, I'm gonna go in. I want to do these. We did the feet last time, and now I'm gonna do the tops. And they're not as thick, so the curve isn't gonna be quite the same. But I think I'm gonna use part of the curve right off of these feet. And I'll just kind of look and see what tickles my fancy. What I'm trying to decide is whether or not I'm going to use the bottom part of that arc or the top. And I think I might use the top. Yeah, that's going to put it a little closer to looking like the bottom. So I just got to line that up. I'll show you what I mean. If I'd used the bottom, there would have been the arc, and there's not enough curve in that. Plus, I'd have all that great big flat spot. So instead, I went off the top and used that one. Nothing scientific, just what looks best. Frick's behind the camera today. Jake's out on his other job.
And I'm off from my other job today. So.
Did you get fired or just?
No.
Over here to the bandsaw.
Wouldn't fire me. I run the show.
Of course, just like here.
That's right.
I've got to turn the air on. We got the air conditioning running, so hopefully that doesn't create too much noise in the background. Find out after. The dust collector doesn't have the greatest of dust collecting ability. Throws out a terrible fine dust. Frick, you want a dust mat?
No, that's okay. I'll be fine.
Now, depending on what you're using to finish these off, you have to make it. You may have to get a whole lot closer than I did. And I've got the luxury of this big sander. Show you if you've got one of these, get one of these rubber, wait a minute,
there a reason you can't do that on the other sander?
You mean the horizontal belt?
Yeah. I was wondering that during the last episode. But...
Well, the only problem with trying to do that on the horizontal belt sander.
Not fast enough, or?
No, you're pulling. You've got a belt going this way, so it's just a little bit harder to control.
Okay. With
this one, the abrasive action is going straight down, and you've got the table to rest it against. So a lot more control using a disc sander, at least in that application, than a belt sander. Thanks for asking, Frick.
I was wondering that when I was...
No, that probably bothered you at night, not...
Yeah. Kept me up.
I figured. Erica said you were restless. And I thought that was from your son, Bentley. Gary Zimmel, who is a good friend of mine. Gary's taken a couple of my classes out in Calgary several years ago, and if you go on student work page we have, you'll see some of his work. Gary's probably one of the best dovetailers I've ever had in any of my classes. And while I was in Edmonton last weekend, he was here with his son graduating in Halifax, so he may actually, any luck, he's going to stop by tomorrow, so we'll have him on the episode with us. Hopefully he makes it. Keep taking that stupid mask off. I hate wearing those. It's such a pain. I find it a little bit easier starting up here than having started down there like I did on the last one. So if you're wondering why I did it differently. Okay, that's it for that. This one done. I'm just going until I get rid of all the ink. You want a nice gentle flow, and you don't want any flat spots. So, Rick, I gotta move this a little bit. Well, the final touch is just to run your hand over it, and you feel a nice smooth curve. Notice, but what I find when you're trying to do a motion like that, if you're trying to move it just with your arms, it's tough, but if you can do it with your body, this works for me. You get a lot more control. Okay, so those are cleaned out. Round over. Actually, you know what I got to do is I got to finish those off. I don't want to leave. I mean, that's okay for roughing it in, but I'm gonna have to. I'll probably sand those. We just hand sand them. It's cedar and it sands quite quickly, so 150 grit would probably be high enough. So I've got to do that. I also want to quarter round these. and I've got to decide whether to use an 1/8 inch or 3/16. I think the next thing to do with these is to go in and I want to make sure they're all identified, marked, so I know when I go to put it together that everything is in its proper place. And then I want to hand plane these and clean the surfaces all up. And if I can get away without having to sand them and take it right from the plane, that's going to be ideal. I'd like to be able to do that too, and I could possibly do that with the block plane. I may try that. Okay, how much time? What do we got?
17 minutes.
Okay, so that's lots of time to get moving. All right, I'm gonna shut the camera down for a second. I think what I'll do is go get my plane, bring my plane in, and we'll go to work on getting these planed up. But I've got to bring everything over here, so we'll shut it down for just a second and bring it back. Okay, testing out a new plane I got from Woodcraft. This is their number 7. I wouldn't normally test something out live on film, but I'm pretty confident in the stuff. I don't expect any problems. I already sharpened the blade. Actually, I put an IBC blade in it. I haven't bothered to do up the original equipment on it yet. I'll get around to it. Okay. I'm just going to put a stop on here so I can plane against it. It's a good thing to learn to do anyway. You don't have to clamp everything down that you're planing. You'll learn a lot more about planing and how to apply the force if you do it just up against a bench dog or something like this. I just want to make sure that I'm not planing off any marks, identifying marks. So I think I wrote everything on the actual tenons. Now, here's the problem. I've got a bunch of dents from that glue that was on the face of the clamp. So we'll try to raise those dents. Frick, did you see? I got a bunch of paintbrushes.
I did see some somewhere, but
yeah, I did too. Dave has them for painting the brass on the sauce. Anyway, I'll show you what I'm going to do. I'm just going to leave a little bit of water in those. That'll soak up and bring it back. It might even bring it up a little bit higher. And then when I plane it, you'll never know it was there.
oh, sorry.
Wife?
No, Jake.
It's all over my hand. Oh shoot! You know what? This is covered in oil. Ah! That's what that's from. I wonder why I was looking at the side of that wood and seeing my fingerprints. Just chameleon oil. Dave uses that for doing up the sides of the saws before we ship them in the box. Put them in the box. So I have to use my finger.
Are they next to the peanuts? I think maybe that's where I saw them. Oh.
Use my finger. Oil and water doesn't mix, but it did well there. Now let's set those aside. Okay, I don't see any marks on this, so it should be good to go. I'll get rid of that before we end up spilling it. So I don't want to take a lot off. I don't want to necessarily change the dimension. I just want to get rid of the knife marks from the thickness planer. So what I'm doing here is sighting down the sole. Now I advance the blade until it shows up as a thin black line, and then use the lateral adjustment lever underneath here. I don't know if you folks know how to use a plane or not, but we opened some people's eyes out there in Edmonton on the weekend as to what they could do with a hand plane. I planed up a piece of figured maple and passed it around, and you can actually hold it up and see a reflection of everything in the room off of the bare wood. Learning how to sharpen is the single biggest advantage or thing that I think as far as woodworking goes. It just opens up so many doors. Alright, so with the blade retracted, I'm going to start advancing it. I'm going to see where my first bit of shaving comes out. Okay, it's a little bit to my left, so I'm going to push the blade a little bit to my left, which will oh, you know what? I got that throat down too tight. Gotta open that up. Shut that down for just a second, Kurt, while I grab the right screwdriver. Okay, come around here and have a quick look in the in here just so that they know what we're doing. There's two outside frog retaining screws, and then there's a center one. And the center one, once I've loosened up the two outside ones, pulls the frog back. And I'll pull that back. I don't need any kind of control of tear out on this. So I get it back where I want. I tighten up the two outside frog retaining screws. Now we'll go through this procedure again. The problem was that the shavings were, the blade was almost touching the forward part of the throat and wouldn't let the shavings through. Alright. Give this another go. Now, advance until I start to pull off shavings. They seem to be, look, see right there? They're in the middle of the plane. That's what I'm looking for. First thing we'll do is pull off the tops of all those little waves that come from the rotary cutting action of either the jointer or the thickness planer. And I can do this in two passes because of the width of the blade. So I take a pass on the right side and then one on the left. You just keep doing that until I get rid of all the marks. Pull the blade out just a little bit more. Now, I got a mark right there, see that? Another clamp mark. That's the one downside to using this Spanish cedar. It's really quite fragile now that I've worked it. So I'm going to go in and see if I can't raise that as well. I may have a bunch of those to get rid of. And this bench is going to get marked up first day you start using it, but I don't want it to go out marked up. Alright, that one looks okay. Again, there's no identifying marks on there that I'm getting rid of. Plane works well. You can tell as soon as you start to use it. Well, I shouldn't say you can tell. I can tell as soon as I start to use it whether or not the sole's flat. And that's the thing that I think has been most remarkable with these Wood Rivers. For the price you're paying, you're getting something that has the tolerance of a much more expensive tool. If they can get that right, then I can pretty much rest assured they're going to get the rest of it right. It's not to say that there isn't a slight chance that you'll find something that's a little bit amiss, but I haven't found anything bad. Now I'm just feeling for any plane tracks. I'm going to pull the blade back in a little bit. When I sharpen my blade, I dress the corners, meaning I put pressure on either corner for just a few seconds on the final stone to get rid of or to prevent the corners from leaving what we call plane tracks. Now, there's another little spot. A little bit of water in there. There's some wormholes in here, but Natural defect I can live with. One that I've done or introduced, can't. Okay, though, I don't see any. Those aren't identifying marks. There's the hieroglyphic telling me which piece goes in there, which I'll never be able to figure out because I can't even tell what it is now. Can't take this in one pass, it's too wide, so you got to take it in two. So I try to leave the middle of the blade, or the when I'm making this, leave the edge of this blade somewhere around the middle, so that I'm taking off roughly the same amount from both sides. All right, now here's a few little defects here. You can't come right in here, Frick. A little bit of tear out on that shoulder. That I'm not going to worry about too much. It might even disappear with my planing. We've got another dent down here. You can barely feel it. So what's happened is the clamp has just kind of broken those fibers a little bit on the outside. I'll take a few more passes and see if we can get rid of them. And I'm not taking much as far as thickness goes. Advance the blade a little bit, and it might be a foul. You want to be careful not to throw it at a square. I don't feel anything there, I just see it, so I don't think I can do much about it. Now this surface has come right off of the table saw, so you can see the circular marks. You got to get rid of those. And if you want, just to kind of keep track of where you are, take a pencil. Don't use anything that's going to leave or make penetrate the wood and make it hard to get rid of. But by doing that, you can just kind of keep an eye or have some idea as to where your passes are overlapping. Seems to be a little bit of a dip in this piece. There is. This side of it is not joined to anything, so you don't have to worry about it as much. Got quite a bit of a dip there. Still some marks there. Now, it looks good. That side's done. Now we can do this side's the one that still has to have wait for that to raise up. I'm gonna put some air on that. I need to. All right, now these marks, and they're actually raised, that came from the infeed roll on the thickness planer, which, two things, it may have been set, the springs may have had a little too much tension on them, so it puts a little too much pressure. And the other thing, of course, is, actually there's two more things. One is, softer the wood, the more it's going to leave an impression. And I think I may have explained this before, my infeed roller has what's called a segmented head. So the infeed roller is the width of the planer, which in my case is 20 inches. And then about every inch or inch and a quarter, it's actually a separate piece, and it's spring loaded. So you can send 3 or 4 boards through at the same time without being the same thickness, and the infeed rollers will actually grab them because they'll go up and down. But if you have one right near the edge, in other words, when this comes through, I've got one infeed roller going to here, and the next section is right to there, and you just have that last section, and there's a lot of pressure on it, and yet it's only making a very small contact with the wood, so it digs in and leaves that. It leaves all that explanation, but I figured I'd tell you where it came from. Now this one is almost wide enough to do in one pass. It is 2 1/4. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to keep my finger. Frick, can you get down underneath? I'm going to hold my finger right here to keep that centered so that I can take that all in one pass. If I let the I move the plane off to one side or the other, then part of it, because the blade doesn't go all the way to either side, part of it will be left unplaned, and that'll tip it, and then I won't have a square edge any longer. Okay, now that's smooth end to end. I still have the ripples, but I'm going to put a quarter round on this, so I may be able to get rid of that with the quarter round. We'll wait and see. What does that say? Fix. Oh yeah, fix the shoulder. All right. We'll do that when we go to fit them. Someone said something the other day. You learn most of the way I tell what's going on with my plane and my surface comes right off of here. I read what's coming out of there, and you can tell we've got a nice full length shaving, no defects in it. End to end, that means we're done. Lay that on its side. Now this one again is too wide to take in one pass, so we have to do it in two. They just overlap. I don't have the plane held at skewed at much of an angle, but because these pieces are fairly narrow, this is a wide board, I'd have it skewed a fair bit. Just feeling for any plane track. That's good. Now, if I got a really good result planing this way, then the natural thing to do is to flip the board over. Do you see that? Are you wide enough to see what I did?
Do it again.
Okay. If I get a good result planing this way, I want to do the other side. So take the board and flip it end for end, just like that. And chances are, the grain direction is going to be running the same way when I plane this side. Now, I got a little bit of stuff going on here, but I don't expect it to cause much grief. And watch what you're doing with your clamps and make sure you keep them low enough so that you don't end up hitting the end of your plane on there. This has got a bow in it, or a cup in it as well. So I should have said the last time, that's what I meant. I said a bow and I should have meant a cup. Now if you wanted, what you could do is grab your smoother. It's not important that this be absolutely straight or flat, simply because where it's going. So if I wanted to go in there and plane this and get rid of the marks without having to flatten it, so I'm going to lose a certain amount of stock, because in order to get to here, I've got to take whatever the difference is. So if I look at that and I see a gap there of a 32nd of an inch, then I'm going to have to take a 32nd off of here and here in order to get down to this. If I were to grab a smoother, on the other hand, I could go in and get rid of that without having to take all this extra stock off, because the sole of the plane won't be referencing off of these higher ends. Now, got a little bit of grain lifting right here. So what I'm going to do first is retract the blade and try a lighter pass. That sometimes will do it. And if that doesn't work, if the blade is sharp, then I may come in with a back bevel, and that will take care of it for sure. I feel it every time I go over it. But you know what? It's not much, it's not enough of a problem to really worry about. We out of time? Okay. Alright, so that one's done on all four sides. I've got the rest of these to do. You don't need to watch me doing those. I'm going to go ahead though and put some water in the dents I will come back and we'll do these, and we'll just keep working on this. So see you shortly.